Welcome to Africa 54. Here's what's coming up.
President Donald Trump says he wants the U.S. to take ownership of Gaza, moving ahead of previous statements of forcing Gazans to relocate to neighboring Jordan and Egypt. The U.S. Senate, along party lines, confirms Pam Bondi as America's top law enforcement official and head of the Justice Department. Teachers in New York adapt conventional toys to make them more suitable for use by disabled students. All this and much more coming up on today's Africa 54.
U.S. President Donald Trump says he wants the U.S. to take ownership of Gaza, moving beyond his earlier statements of forcing Gazans to relocate to neighboring Jordan and Egypt. The president made the stunning announcement Tuesday evening as he hosted Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House. White House Bureau Chief Patsy Widakuswara has more.
As hundreds of thousands of Gazans return to their demolished homes following the January 19th ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas, on Tuesday, U.S. President Donald Trump made a stunning announcement.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too.
Trump went beyond the suggestion he made last month to relocate Gazans to other countries, including Jordan and Egypt. He wants to develop the area into what he calls the Riviera of the Middle East.
Everybody I've spoken to loves the idea of the United States owning that piece of land, developing and creating thousands of jobs with something that will be magnificent in a really magnificent area that nobody would know. Nobody can look because all they see is death and destruction and rubble.
Trump made the announcement as he hosted Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House.
I've said this before. I'll say it again. You are the greatest friend Israel has ever had in the White House.
Trump did not share details on how he plans to exert control over Gaza, an area ravaged by 15 months of war. He did not rule out sending U.S. troops. And it's unclear how occupying Gaza would fit into Trump's own stated goal of expanding the Abraham Accords to include Riyadh. He brokered the deal that normalized ties between Israel and Arab countries in 2020. Saudi Arabia has said it would only agree to recognize Israel if the Gaza war ends and Palestinians have a path to statehood.
Shuffling them out of Palestine into neighboring countries is not a particularly auspicious start. So I think it's going to have quite a pronounced effect. Having said that, we don't know. As with so many things about President Trump, we just have to wait and see.
Trump's announcement on Gaza is his latest signaling of expansionist ambitions, following his statements to acquire Greenland from Denmark, take over the Panama Canal, and absorb Canada. Ahead of his meeting with Netanyahu, Trump also directed the restoration of his maximum pressure campaign on Iran to prevent it from getting a nuclear weapon. He also ended support for the UN agency that helps Palestinian refugees and withdrew the U.S. from the UN Human Rights Council, which he says is anti-Semitic. Patsy Widakuswara, VOA News, Washington.
The U.S. Senate confirmed Pam Bondi as U.S. Attorney General Tuesday evening. The vote fell almost entirely along party lines, with only Senator John Fetterman, a Pennsylvania Democrat, joining with all Republicans to pass her confirmation 54-46. Republicans are praising Bondi as a highly qualified leader who will bring much-needed change to a department they believe unfairly pursued Trump through investigations resulting in 2 indictments. Bondi's confirmation vote came hours after FBI agents sued the Justice Department over efforts to develop a list of employees involved in the January 6th prosecutions. U.S. President Donald Trump's administration says it's pulling almost all U.S. agencies for international development workers off the job and out of the field worldwide. The order takes effect in the U.S. just before midnight Friday and gives direct hires of the agency overseas 30 days to return home unless they're deemed essential. The notice posted online Tuesday says contractors not determined to be essential also will be fired. The move had been rumored rumored for several days, the agency is slated to be incorporated into the State Department. Thousands of USAID employees already have been laid off and programs worldwide shut down after President Trump imposed a sweeping freeze on foreign assistance. The decision by President Donald Trump to freeze most foreign aid has left Ukrainian organizations that provide humanitarian aid and other services scrambling. Miroslava Gonzadze has the story, with reporting from Anna Chernikova.
The Veteran Hub provides psychological and social support to Ukrainian war veterans and their families. The group says the Trump administration's order to freeze foreign aid forced it to close its office in the town of Vinnytsia. Their main office in Kyiv is still operating thanks to private donors. Ivona Kostina chairs the Veteran Club. She says the halt was unexpected and hit the project hard.
The stop of funding sounds like the stop of operation to us. It means to stop payroll and prevent people from returning to work.
Soon after President Trump took office, his administration ordered a 90-day freeze to reevaluate all foreign aid. The White House did not respond to a VOA request for comment on Ukraine aid. A State Department statement on implementing the freeze says, quote, "The United States is no longer going to blindly dole out money with no return for American people." The abrupt cut-off sent shockwaves through humanitarian organizations in Ukraine. After 3 years of war, the government, civil society and media rely heavily on foreign assistance. Bogdan Logvinenko founded the independent Ukrainian multimedia project Ukrainer. He told VOA most of their funding was from USAID programs.
We are cutting personnel. We had to reduce the scale of our work because we used to have several programs supporting us at the same time.
Logvinenko says the impact of the freeze goes far beyond independent media.
The impact is huge. Media aid is a drop in the ocean. Economic support has a huge impact, and the fact that it is being stopped now strengthens Russia's position.
The USAID agency says since Russia's invasion, it has sent Ukraine more than $7.6 billion in humanitarian and development assistance. There is no doubt the public sector will take a hit without US aid, says Denis Bihus, head of the investigative media project Bihus Info. However, what worries Bihus more is the fate of the state programs that relied the most on the funding.
Our main recipient, in a broad sense, is the state of Ukraine, represented either by local communities or directly by the state apparatus.
U.S. policy analyst Doug Klein explains that much of the foreign aid from the United States was meant to keep Ukraine's government and society running strong, but it also supported programs that held the government accountable. Klein believes that lifting the freeze on these programs would strengthen the Trump administration's policy and make for a more resilient Ukraine.
Trump wants to force Vladimir Putin to end his invasion of Ukraine, and he wants to achieve what he and his team call peace through strength. And a strong Ukraine with leverage is key to that.
In the meantime, President Volodymyr Zelensky instructed his government to prioritize the most critical programs that relied on U.S. funding and to cover their needs through the national budget or alternative foreign aid sources. Miroslava Gongadze, Anna Chernikova, VOA News, Warsaw, Kyiv.
Now, the fall of Goma has rattled the continent, prompting international condemnation and fears of a humanitarian crisis. Observers say Goma is cautiously starting to come back to life after several days of fighting between Congolese forces and M23 fighters. For more perspective on the war, Zihindula Mulegwa, attorney and former spokesperson for former Congo President Joseph Kabila, spoke to VOA's Paul Ndiho on the conflict.
The town of Goma is now firmly in the hands of the M23, the AFC, and their Rwandan allies. This is what I'm hearing from everybody. The situation in Goma is calmer today. There's not been shooting, and so people were about to go to venture outside for the day today.
You talked about the Rwandan allies, but Rwanda has on numerous occasions denied their involvement in the Congo. They say unequivocally that they are not present in the Congo, and if anything, that M23 rebels are Congolese, they are not Rwandans.
Nobody can doubt that the M23 are from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Many of the people in the M23, even more so the AFC, which is led by Mr. Corneille Nangaa. So there's nobody disputing the fact that the principal leaders inside of the M23 are from the Democratic Republic of Congo, including the president and other people. But that still does not negate the fact that Rwanda is involved in this war and is on the side of the M23.
There are some people who have accused the former president that he's partly involved with what we see. Are those accusations based on any merit?
President Kabila is not interested in an armed insurrection against the Congolese government. President Kabila is no way involved in any kind of military opposition, any kind of armed insurrection against the Congolese government. Kabila is nowhere close to any activities of that nature.
Thanks for making that clarification. The Congolese government had also hired mercenaries to fight on their behalf. And we saw these mercenaries being embarrassed, were captured just by this, what you referred to as a ragtag army.
There are several things about this. You know, the Congolese armed forces have the capacity to fight. And the proof is that Goma was not captured as easy as people thought it was captured. President Tshisekedi relied on a foreign army that does not know Congo, does not know the context in the region, and does not have any reason to fight except for money. That's why they're called mercenaries. On the contrary, the Congolese army is fighting for their identity. The Congolese army is fighting to protect the land that they inherited from their ancestors. So, you know, these mercenaries were not as motivated as a Congolese person is supposed to be motivated to fight to protect his land. A mercenary is a mercenary. And the only reason they are fighting is for money. But the Congolese armed forces, as we call them, the FARDC, they have no other country. They only have one country, and it's called the Democratic Republic of Congo. And they fight for their own survival.
That was Zihidula Mulegwa, attorney and former spokesman for former Congo President Joseph Kabila. Now to Haiti. A contingent from El Salvador has arrived in Haiti to bolster a UN-backed mission led by Kenyan police to help fight gangs that killed thousands of people last year and control much of the capital. The 70 personnel will provide expertise in air support, which Kenyan officials say will be critical for medical evacuations. Heavily armed gangs in Haiti have attacked a neighborhood of the capital, Port-au-Prince, that is home to many of the country's elite and had been largely untouched by criminals. Police have demanded help repelling the assault that has killed at least 40 people in the upscale community of Kinskov. The United States plans to cooperate with Costa Rica and offer the assistance of the FBI and DEA to help investigate drug trafficking to the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Tuesday in San Jose, Costa Rica. Rubio made the statement during a joint press conference with Costa Rican President Rodrigo Chavez.
And we're going to continue to work with you on providing the technologies that these waivers are about today to prevent the exportation of drugs. But when you confront these groups, they become violent and they become vicious. And so we want to see how we can work, perhaps by allowing more DEA and FBI resources to conduct investigations together with your police and your law enforcement to identify and help you capture and arrest them and bring them to justice.
Rubio says the U.S. is willing to share biometric data with the Central American nation to identify migrants with possible links to terrorism.
We want to build on that because we are seeing, you have seen, and they've confronted here, elements from all over the world, from other continents, from Africa, from the Middle East, that have links to terrorism, that have been stopped through our biometric sharing programs and identified and prevented from moving forward and doing God knows what if they had ever reached the United States.
Rubio also called an offer by El Salvador's president to house dangerous criminals from the United States in his country's jails, quote, very generous, and says the Trump administration will have to study it. Regarding USAID, Rubio says that programs providing food, medicine, or anything urgent that saves lives will be involved in the freeze. We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54 and all our VOA Africa programs on our website at voaafrica.com. Still to come, adapting toys for use by disabled students. We'll be right back.
On the next Straight Talk Africa, Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali withdraw from the Economic Community of West African States, or ECOWAS. They are dissatisfied with the group's inability to help them fight jihadists and its ties to former colonial power France. The three countries are now turning to Russia, Iran, and Turkey for support. Join me, Peter Clote, for an in-depth discussion on the realignment of powers in the Sahel region.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain, and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depend on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
According to Center for Reproductive Rights, 1 in every 5 adolescent girls across Africa gets pregnant before the age of 19. And unfortunately, many of these young girls lack access to education due to economic and cultural barriers and often end up pregnant and shouldering the responsibility of motherhood at tender age. On this episode of Our Voices, we will be talking about the physical, mental, and socioeconomic consequences of teen pregnancy on both the mother and the child. Join the conversation each week right here on Our Voices.
In other news, U.S. President Donald Trump is taking aim at a new South African law meant to address the nation's apartheid legacy of racial and equal land distribution, threatening to withdraw funding, including to the world's largest HIV treatment program. Africa observers told VOA on Tuesday that some members of the U.S. Congress have jumped on this grievance to, quote, upend the status quo in U.S.-South Africa relations as a response. Not all kids can play with conventional toys. At a school in New York, teachers are taking off the shelf toys and adapting them to make them more suitable for disabled students' needs. Tina Trin reports.
A little bit. This little piggy runs on batteries, but it has something else others don't. A motion sensor that lets you control it with the wave of your hand. Jesse Simon added the sensor. He's an occupational therapist at the International Academy of Hope, or iHope, in New York. Simon rewired the pig for students here, all of whom have brain injuries.
A lot of them might have limited control over their bodies or, reduced muscle strength, and it might be difficult for them to participate using their hands, using their body in the same way that, a typical person would.
The pig's tiny on-off switch is hard to access, but it can be connected to a ready-made button or sensor that's easier to use. Simon uses a battery interrupter to connect more accessible controllers.
Anything that has like a circuit that we can interrupt, that's why we call it an interrupter, is like you put it in between like where the battery connects with the terminal, and that way you close the circuit when you hit the switch, which allows the circuit to flow through, giving the student a role in that process.
Assistive technologies like this are a game changer for kids with neurological and physical disabilities.
It's like the keys to the city. It allows them to do things they couldn't do before. It takes them out of the passenger seat and puts them in the driver's seat, and it gives them some control over their life and their ability to communicate and learn.
Some modifications are more low-tech, like adding larger handles and rubber pulls to trucks.
For a lot of our students who grasping is a little bit harder, hooking a finger or hooking another body part just might be easier.
The school receives donations of store-bought toys, almost all of which will be modified in some way. The most popular one is a fart machine, rewired and connected to a more accessible button switch.
They give our kids the one-up on the adult, which they rarely have. So this is the one time where the kid can do something to the adult and like get them and be like, gotcha!
A seemingly trivial prank that also gives students the power of play. Tina Trin, VOA News, New York.
On January 20th, after U.S. President Donald Trump's return to the White House, his cryptocurrency, Trump, surged 73% to a market value of about $9.2 billion. Melania Trump also launched her meme coin. However, cryptocurrency prices fell earlier this week, with Bitcoin reaching a 3-week low. Our technology correspondent Paul Ndiho is here with a special guest. Hello, Paul.
Hello, Lino, and thank you. Concerns over a global trade war drove the decline. President Trump initially imposed a 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada, Canadian imports, and 10% on Chinese goods, but later reversed his decision. To learn more, I'm joined by Musi Haley, the founder and chief executive officer of Moya Technologies, based in Fairfax, Virginia. Welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for having me.
So everybody is talking about cryptocurrencies. Maybe let's start there.
Yeah, I mean, everybody talks about it, whether it's in the US or Africa or anywhere in the world, they talk about it. And then with the president's coin that came out earlier this year, we saw the surge and we saw the downfall of it. It depends on, the whole idea behind coins is there is a personality behind it, and if that personality, goes up, the coin goes up. If the personality's mood goes down, it goes down. It depends on how everything goes out. My take on the whole crypto space is that it is very risky. You have to be very cautious. That's one thing. One of the things that is happening with the new administration is they put up a czar, a crypto and AI czar who's going to be looking at it, which means regulation is coming down the road. And that's where this is going to, we'll have some adult supervision, whereas today everything's kind of like fluctuating everywhere. So you will have that type of implementation will go through. Whereas the other side of this is everybody goes into the whole Bitcoin aspects of it. Right now it's what, over $100,000 per coin. There is following behind that. There's governments that are looking into it, and that's the other thing that's happening as well.
I just wanted to do a quick follow-up. You talked about it being risky. You've been in this space for quite a while now.
Correct.
Personally, I've lost money in Bitcoin. So
Correct.
What can you tell people out there who want to get into it?
Well, it's like going to Vegas. You go to Vegas, you put $1,000, you lose $1,000, you're not going to win, the house is going to win. Whereas cryptocurrency or Bitcoin or whatever coin you're going to, the money that you're investing is not something that you're going to use it for your rent or your mortgage or your car note, whatever it is. It's something that you are willing to lose. If you're willing to lose that money, put it up. Otherwise, don't. And then if you make some money, take the money that you invested and use the house's money to play that coin. If you lose the house money, you lose the house money, but at least you get your investment back. I still think there is value in terms of cross-border payment type of stuff. So if you look at U.S. stablecoins, USTD kind of concept, that is something that's backed by Treasury, that's backed by some kind of gold behind it, that could work. Whereas Bitcoin today, again, it's very risky. I've been on this since 2010. I don't own any Bitcoin. I would by now be a billionaire or whatever, but I don't because I see this very risky. And I've been saying that, and my family knows about this, my friends know about it, and anybody who asks me, I tell them, don't put any of your money, and if you do, take the house's money and play with it, not your own investment. So it's very risky.
For it to work, they use a certain technology called blockchain.
Correct.
A lot of people don't understand how these two work together. Explain.
Sure. So the whole idea behind blockchain technology is it's kind of like a chain. You have the regular chain. So when you create a coin, the first initial of it is the core of it, right? That's the block. And then every transaction that happens with it is created as a chain. So you could see where it got initiated and where every step that coin is taken, you can see it transactionally. So transparency is there, right? So where
there's a ledger.
There's a ledger that transparency is there. Immutable, nobody can change it. Nobody can hack into it. Well, most hacks happen inside anyway. But the idea is you're not going to be able to change this. There's a read-only ledger that people can see it and say, oh yeah, Paul made a transaction of a fraction of a Bitcoin, or bought a pizza, or bought a house, or bought using Bitcoin. You could see that, right? This becomes very, very transparent in terms of money laundering, whether it is bribes and things like that. You will be able to see who's getting what, right? So this kind of goes into the idea of look at it from a treasury perspective or a central bank perspective. So this Bitcoin has its own central bank. It's inside blockchain. And the government, the US government and other governments are actually looking at how do we use this technology to streamline our processes, to show transparency. As part of the czar, the crypto czar that's been created, this group is going to start investigating how they could use blockchain, how they use cryptocurrency, and other things that goes with it. And then with AI and then everything that's coming down the road, everything becomes, kind of works together. But to me, my focus is more in the blockchain aspects of it. How can you use it? What can I use it for? And that's what I do. In terms of the crypto side of it, that's a product of blockchain. Okay. That's what it is.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Mosi Haley is the founder and CEO of Moya Technologies, Inc., based in Fairfax County, Virginia. That's our report. Back to you, Lino.
Thank you, Paul. Great reporting. Be sure to join Paul Ndio each Wednesday for another tech segment on Africa 54. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 every day. I'm Lenore, and thank you for joining us. Goodbye.